So we haven't talked about the ex-MPD officers charged in Tyre Nichols' death in a while, but there are major developments in whether or not their federal convictions will stand. 3 of those officers, Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith, and Tadarius Bean, were convicted in the federal trial in October of 2024. 2 others, Emmett Martin and Desmond Mills, took plea deals. In June of this year, the judge presiding over the federal case, Mark Norris, recused himself days before those officers were set for sentencing. And that was because reports surfaced that Norris was biased because he made comments about MPD being infiltrated with gang members. The new judge, Cheryl Littman, ordered a new trial, and now this week, federal prosecutors are asking an appeals court to deny the new trial. There was a state trial back in May for second-degree murder, assault, and kidnapping charges, which those 3 officers were found not guilty. At this very moment, all are out on bond except one ex-officer, Emmett Martin, and he's one of the 2 who took a plea deal. So, Otis, the big question here is, like, is Tyre Nichols and the family getting justice?
Absolutely not right now. I wrote a column about this this past week, and I used that old idiom, justice delayed is justice denied, and that's what's happening here. And you have to place some of the blame squarely on federal judge Mark Norris. I've known him for many years. He's always came across as an upright guy, but to make comments, allegedly, the U.S. Attorney's Office said he made the comments in meetings with them off the bench that the MPD was infiltrated with gangs all the way to the top, and you don't have any proof of that? Yes, I understand why the officers and their attorneys asked for a new trial, and I think Judge Lippman, Cheryl Lippman, who I know quite well, she had no choice but to offer and grant a new trial, because she said we have to secure even the appearance of justice and the appearance of fairness. And so I don't blame her for doing that. It'd be interesting to see what the appeals court says, but I think a new trial is coming here, and that is definitely not justice for the Nichols family.
And you saw the family, Catherine, because you are familiar with being in the courtroom for the federal trial and followed up with the state trial. So just your thoughts. I reached out to Rovon Wells about this. She wanted to wait to give her comments until she sees things play out. But what do you take from that?
Well, I did sit in on a good portion of the federal trial and some of the state trial as well, and I think what stood out to me the most was just how taxing it was on the family, having to go through it again and again, watching Rovon put her head down so she wouldn't see the video played again and again. And I saw their faces when we came out of the state trial with those not guilty verdicts, and it was horrifying just to think of what they were going through, and to now think of them having to go through it all over again. It's just an incredibly tragic and horrifying thing.
Most definitely. And Tawan, just so the federal prosecutors filing to have an appeals court deny the new trial, how do you think that will that happen?
You know, I don't know, but I do know this. This has been a miscarriage of justice for Tyre Nichols. And his family should be devastated by it. We have been disappointed on every level, from the police who made the initial stop, to the police chief not taking the witness stand, to the DA, I'm sorry, to the DA not prosecuting the case well, in my humble opinion, to the judge not having temperance and deliberate conduct to conduct himself in a way that would give no prejudice on this case. All of that, we have failed him. And then 5 police officers who yanked the young man out of his car, beat him to death when he said, "What did I do?" And the only thing they can come up with is, we want to be free. Well, I'm sure he does too.
Tawan, mic drop moment, but the emotion that is warranted for a situation like this, most definitely.
We have failed this family. We have failed Tyre Nichols. And if there were ever a time for federal courts to just, I don't know what they could do, but it's a sad situation. We have prolonged their pain.
To Tawan's point, This is the most heinous example of excessive deadly police force since the Elton Hayes case back in 1971, 72. That's over 50 years ago, and this is the worst since then. And again, you have to place some blame here on Judge Mark Norris. And he can't talk about it right now because of the Code of Judicial Conduct. He can't talk about it. But at some point, he's going to have to come out and apologize, not just to the police department, but if it's not true and he doesn't have any proof of it, he has to apologize to a police department, but above all, he needs to apologize to Tyre Nichols, his family, and this community for putting us through this when it didn't have to be.
Could this be a situation where he may never be able to be a judge again?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so, but I think it will compromise, and I addressed this in the column, it compromises his ability to handle any cases that involve MPD.
It does.
He cannot handle those cases directly or indirectly. And again, if he has proof of gang infiltration in the police department, bring it on, or have some representative bring it on. Otherwise, you need to be making some apologies around here because of what you put the entire community through, especially Tyre Nichols'
So
family.
last quick question on this, and a quick note. I want to ask, if the appeals court decides that there won't be a new trial, where do we go from here?
I don't have
Do
an
the
answer to that.
convictions
Well,
stand?
if there will not be a new trial, then the convictions stand, and Cheryl Lipman will be the one to
sentencing.
impose the sentencing. She has the case right now, and so that's where it will stand if there is not a new trial.
Okay, all right. Well, on that note, we have to end the show. Wonderful discussion here. Thank you all for watching. We hope you'll join us next week for ABC24 This Week.